It's the true crime grapevine. All the crime and lots of time. Hey, happy Thanksgiving, post-Thanksgiving. All right, folks. Hi, it's me, Patty Lee, your host of the True Crime Grapevine. Why do I have this little cute turkey cookie? Because, folks, this is why this 37th episode is a little late. I mean, it's 9 days instead of 7 days in between. Why, you ask? Well, it's been Thanksgiving. I was busy. I'm the pastry person for our family. So, yeah, that's what I was doing. That and making myself some jewelry to go with Thanksgiving. Why? When I have all my crime to do in half the time? We don't know. All right. Or, as I just heard recently, too much crime and not enough time. Am I right? Okay, so our 37th episode. In case you don't know, hi, I'm Patty Lee. This is the True Crime Grapevine. What does that mean? If you're new here, if you like it, I hope that you hit the like button. It's free. Subscribe. That would be awesome. I am a YouTube channel that, unlike, I guess, other YouTubers, I watch all the YouTube as well as read all the local news on the crimes that everybody is talking about. And then I sort of like compile it and provide it to you guys each week. Sometimes 7 days, sometimes 10 days, but I always do a full catch-up. So if you watch all my episodes, you won't miss anything. In case you don't have all the time to watch all this crime, I'll do it for you. Now, I try to give you the facts, I try to give you the theories, and then I give you my opinion, but, you know, take it all with a grain of salt, right? I am a educational psychologist teacher by trade. I am ABD, which means all but dissertation. I am a dyslexic armchair detective, which all of that means is I'm going to provide you with facts that are sourced. I'll give you my main squeezes because I, you know, as a person who went through grad school, I like to give you citations. I will try to let you know when it's my opinion versus what I've heard law enforcement say versus my favorite main squeeze sources on YouTube. And then you decide. Okay? That's what we're doing. So this week, our 37th week, this is reviewing. I'm gonna, I have my little, I like a little, real, was it like a pun? So I have some luggage here too, so we can, you know, unpack our cases. Yeah, okay, so that's a funny little joke that I have. I also have a drink that I pair with each episode, and this week, oh, my glass is unfrosted. I have glassware. If you know what this glass indicates, that's right. It's going to be a beer or a hard cider. And this week's episode is going to be brought to you by this J. Reese hard cider. It is malicious. Ooh, it's like mal, which means bad, and delicious. It's badly delicious. It's malicious. We shall see. I'm going to keep it right down here. I'm going to keep it cool until it's time to pop that cork. I'm going to give you a rundown of the cases first. Okay, so here's what we're covering. And these are all the true crime that has been talked on the YouTubes and on all the channels that you might find on the interwebs between November 20th, actually the late hours, the overnight hours of the 19th, and the November 28th, which was yesterday, Monday. So that includes over the Thanksgiving holiday. Again, I made cookies, I made necklaces, and we made time, apparently, for lots of crime. So let's get into it. So let's pour out our hard cider here. I'm going to have to, ooh, all right. And let's see how she pours. Okay. Ooh. I know with wine there's a certain level. I'm just gonna, I guess, pour that much out. Let's take a sip. Let's seriously, though, raise a glass to all those we lost this week and to the memories of those we are about to talk about this episode. There are quite a few of them. It's holidays are emotional and apparently deadly. So, to the victims. Malicious. I like it. Definitely can taste the apple in the hard cider. Sweet, crisp, not too sweet, but sweet enough for me, which means I think that's going to be a perfect accompaniment. All right, our cases this week. We have really 9 with one little update on a trial. I'm going to call it 9. We have a crazy catfishing episode case. We have the case of Shanquella Robinson, which you may have heard of. It happened in Mexico. She's from North Carolina. We have the Club Q and the Walmart mass shooting. If you've been on my channel before, you know that we do shots for shootings because it's medicinal and it's really, we need it when we talk about those. We have an update of sorts and I'm going to give you a little academic lesson on what is going on with the Idaho for the Moscow, not Moscow, it's Moscow, Idaho murders. We're going to talk about all of it. Right now, the news is basically the media frenzy and what's going on about the no news updates, which is the update, if that makes sense. With my psychology background, we're going to make some sense out of it. The 5th update is about Quentin Simon's case, which I think you may have heard about. We've got some distinct movement. We've got somebody arrested now. The Delphi suspect of Delphi, Indiana. Some interesting court hearing facts coming out. We're moving forward with Lori Vallow's case in the Vallow Daybell cult mom murders out in Idaho again. This time it's in Rexburg, Idaho. And we have motions flying through the air. We'll talk about those. The Murdaugh, Alec Murdaugh, and his murder of, he is alleged to have murdered his son and his wife. We have an update on how his case is moving forward, and his lawyers have made a very interesting filing that kind of we'll see some reflection or throwback to past movement in the Vallow Daybell case. So that's interesting. And then just a little update on the Wagner trial. So here we go. Case 1. Let's raise a glass to, I'm not going to say their name right, the Winnick family. The Winnick family of Riverside, California. We lost a mom and her parents, so a grandparent, both grandparents, a grandma and a grandpa, a mother, and then the daughter was kidnapped but did survive. Let's drink. Okay, so this just came across the information yesterday. So I don't know, I believe it happened either on Sunday or Monday, but the news broke yesterday that there was a cop, but I wouldn't say he wasn't a lifelong cop. He's 38. He became 28. He became a police officer. He went through training at the end of 2020, was a full officer in Richmond, Virginia in 2021. And he recently quit, and without reason, but when people are going to do something a little nutty, they tend to make big changes in their lives. That's one of the signs we look out for if someone's going to experience severe something psychologically. So on October 29th of this year, he quit his job. Apparently, he had been catfishing. So if you don't know what that term is, it's when you pretend to be somebody else online. He had been speaking, kind of like we'll be talking about the Delphi case. There was an account with the name of Anthony Schatz that was talking to the girls that lured them to the bridge in Delphi. Similarly, this man, who was 28, was speaking with a 15-year-old girl and catfishing her, meaning he was speaking as if he was her age. speaking to her and getting information from her, which is why it's very important. I always say, what can we learn from this? Look at what your kids are doing online. Ask them, who are you talking with? Don't be, try not to be so worried about them speaking to people they may want to date because they won't tell you things and they'll hide it. You want to act like it's no big deal, even if it is, so that they tell you who they're talking to. And then, it's never too early to teach them to, well, what's their name? Let's just check them out because it's online. They're from a whole different state. I don't know if he said he was from Virginia or if he pretended he was closer, but it is important at any age to learn to never be too naive. It's not like you're not trusting somebody. It's not like you're calling them a liar to their face. If somebody says, I'm this name and I'm this age, oh, really? So what school do you go to? Look them up online. See if the family lives at that area. See if there's a name of a person that age. Never too early to teach, just being proactively careful before you date or get involved with somebody that you met online, just to make sure they're who they say they are. That's just normal. And if someone gets angry at you for checking them out, if they find out, that's a red flag, because anybody you meet online should be like, yeah, of course you Googled me. Of course you looked me up. I do a background check too. People who don't like that are people you don't want to be involved with. Well, this girl's 15. She didn't, and this is not victim blaming. I'm just saying apparently she did not know that this was a 28-year-old man. And I'm certainly didn't expect him to do what he did, which was, I don't know if he flew or drove across the country to California, walked up to her house because she had divulged where she lived, or at least he had Googled her or stalked her online. Somehow he found out her last name, her address, went into the home. We're not sure exactly how clear, but apparently he wanted the 15-year-old. And she was at home too. The mom and both grandparents were murdered. The big M, sorry YouTube. They weren't immediately found. What tipped off anybody was a neighbor. And we all hate nosy neighbors and, make fun of the Mrs. Kravitz. If you're old enough to remember Bewitched, she would look out her curtains. But somebody saw the 15-year-old being pushed into a car and looking distressed. They didn't know why. They just know that she was being shoved into this car and acted funny. So they called the police. The police were responding to that call when the house was on fire suddenly. And so the fire department comes there. They go inside and find the 3 victims. They pull them out and realize, no, these people are dead. They were murdered. It was a homicide. So what are we going to do? Oh my gosh, they quickly put it together. Someone grabbed the child in the house. They find the car. The San Bernardino County deputies get the car to pull over. She gets away. The girl is fine. I mean, she's not fine, obviously. She's had her mother and her grandparents of that mom, so that whole side of the family disseminated, just gone. Decimated is what I meant to say. I'm sorry. He gets into a firefight with the deputies and is shot. So we don't really know yet. There isn't information about his background. I assume he had a problem. I mean, obviously he had a problem, right? So that is horrible. I will update you as to more. So yes, the victims in this case, the grandfather was Mark Wynick, 69 years old. His wife, the grandmother, was Sherry Wynick, 65 years old. And really, I'm getting close to that age. I mean, it's kind of scary. That's not old. And then their daughter, who was only, if you're young, you're probably going to think this sounds crazy, but she was only 38, Brooke Weiner. So the daughter is unnamed because obviously she's 15. She is with other family. This is horrible. And so, again, check your kids' social media, ask them who they're talking to. Try not to, and don't be angry that they're talking to somebody. Go, hey, that's great, but let's just check them out. It's just a good thing to do. And 15 is a great age to start that before they start driving. See who you're talking to and just, you know, don't act like it's a sneaky bad thing to do. Act like, oh, this is what we do when we meet people online. We check them out. Not a big deal. All right. Case 2. Let's please raise a glass to, I hope I'm saying her name right, Shanquella Robinson. Shanquella Robinson, only 25. Our second case, so this is a case that I mostly followed because Mel at Mel, that's his YouTube channel, definitely one of my main screen sources. He had also been following it. The Idaho case has really taken all the air out of everything else, and we're going to talk about why, but this case has been going on. She was missing October 29th, so right before Halloween. She went to Mexico with a group of 6 friends. So 25 years old, going off with, 6 girlfriends. That's a fun girls trip right before Halloween. Who would think anything bad would happen, right? Well, something bad did happen. The night after they arrived, I believe on the 29th, something happened. Now, the reports are that the friends called a hospital doctor, I believe on the 30th, the next day, and said that their friend was sick. They thought she drank too much. She, hit her head. And the doctor came. This is where there's, it's not really clear. Okay, clear. It happened in Mexico. So, I don't know about resorts and getting, special treatment, like having doctors come there because, in the United States, people don't make, very rarely, actually, as far as I know, maybe for super rich people, I'm sure there are boutique doctors, but I think at these resorts, there is a more policy of getting a doctor to come in to check on the people who are at the resorts. So apparently the doctor came. Now, it said at one point she died at 3, but the doctor was called at 3, and there's another report that the doctor stayed there until 6, and they wouldn't say that their friend could go to the hospital, and the doctor kept trying to work on her, and she decompensated and finally required CPR and then died. The girls call the parents and say, oh my goodness, we're so sorry, but we have to tell you, Shanquella, she drank too much and died of alcohol poisoning. And the parents were like, oh my, unbelievable grief. Okay, one of the girls does help them to get the body home, but what they find out is she did not have alcohol poisoning. In fact, she had a spinal and head injury, brain injury. She had been beaten to death. There's a video that comes out showing somebody repeatedly bashing her horribly, and you hear another voice in the video saying something like, well, she could at least fight back. So it's unclear if there was some fight that just organically occurred, and then 5 other girls stood around and took videos, and somebody's like, she should at least, we don't know. Shanquella was known as somebody who was sweet and wouldn't fight back. She wasn't an aggressive person. And the family, what they're saying is it was direct aggression. So now there's a Mexican from the province where they were, and I think it was Baja California Sur was the area that they were, the resort is located in. Daniel de la Rosa Anya is the Mexican prosecutor who's handling the case, and they are considering it, a direct aggression, and they want to extradite the friend. The people, her parents, her friends, they recognize the person. They said that they know who the person is. She, so far, has not been named, and Mexico wants to extradite her. We will see. So, the woman was from Charlotte, North Carolina, and Unbelievable that her friends would go on vacation and there would be some altercation, and instead of helping or stopping, people whipped out their phones and evidence. As we've seen in other cases too, I'd just like to point out, if you see a crime occur and you do not report it, you might as well have done it yourself. You are now an accessory to that murder or that crime, whatever that crime is. Just saying. Hashtag just saying. Hashtag Google that shit. I am not kidding. That is what we can learn from this. There were 6 other friends on that trip, and at least one of them now will be extradited, and you don't want to be in Mexico for murder. I'll just tell you that. A Mexican jail is not where you want to be. And also 5 other friends, perhaps accessories now. So I don't know what Mexican law states about accessories, if it's anything like the U.S., and I don't know what the U.S. is. Right now, the U.S. State Department and the FBI are involved in investigating this case. So again, this happened on or about around October 28th through the 30th of October in Mexico, and she was from North Carolina. We will find out more about it. It's a little unbelievable. All right, that was our second case. Now we're going on to case 3. So case 3 is a mass shooting case. If you haven't been with me before, I'm going to have to move my lookers around here. When I do a shot, I have to take a soda back. I don't mix it. So, our first shooting is to the victims of Club Q shooting. This took place on the 19th of November. Actually, I had taped right up until probably the point where this was going down, because I taped very late on the 19th. Horrible. So, to the victims. Oh. Sorry. Ooh. Just have some Sprite, just to, clear out the sinuses. All right. So, the first thing I want to say is, I think it's more important than to talk about the perpetrator to make sure that we do say the names of those that were senselessly murdered. Club Q, it was known as an LGBTQ, is that right, all of them, club, but it also had all kinds of people there. In fact, they had a comedian that night, and lots of people were there to see the comedian. There were married people, straight people, gay people, trans people. It was just a loving place for anybody, and it had a lot going on. So it was very popular. They'd made it through the pandemic by being like a to-go place. I mean, it wasn't just a club. It was a community center for LGBTQ trans community. It was also a place for anybody to come and be themselves. So it's that much more of a tragedy that the weekends before Thanksgiving that someone, came in and disrupted that hallowed ground, shall I say, because it was for a lot of people. That's how they're describing it. It was their safe place. It was a place they went where they made friends, where they could be themselves. It happened in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and it's not the most liberal, progressive, like LGBTQ friendly, not that people aren't, but I mean, this was a place where people felt like one of the places they felt super safe and where they gathered, and it was just known for being super acceptable to whoever you were and whatever you were doing. It reminds me of, what was that other mass shooting in Florida, and it started with a P. And this is my dyslexia, sorry, plus, the drinks. I want to say Pizarro, but that's not it. I'll think of it at the last second. The victims here, we had 5 people who lost their lives, and the person did have a gun. And we'll talk about why that is. It's just insane that he ever was allowed to purchase a gun considering his background. Daniel Aston who was 28 years old and a bartender. Raymond Green Vance, who was 23. I want to make sure I see this exactly right. He went to the show. Raymond Green Vance was actually there with his girlfriend, I think his fiance, and his fiance's mother and father. The father was the hero who he had been in the service, I believe, who took out this guy barehanded without a weapon, just grabbed him, knocked him to the floor. He started beating him with the rifle that he brought in, and that was Mr. Fierro, just a hero. So, but his would-be son-in-law was murdered. The other person that took him out was, I haven't seen the name, but it was a drag queen, I believe, who took her heels off and beat the living you-know-what out of him, which I can't say, I mean, really, to her and to him. These people protected a whole club. They really stopped it from getting anywhere. So the guy came right in, immediately took out the bartenders, which I named Daniel Aston. The other bartender and part owner of the club was Derek Rump. He was 38, and he was a co-owner, bartender, also known to be one of the most kind people. We had Kelly Loving, who was 40 years old. She was considered, one person described her as their trans mother. I mean, she was supporting people, helping them through their journey, just like her name, they said, Loving. And she had just moved to Denver a month before. And Ashley, I don't know if it's Pugh or Paugh, P-A-U-G-H. She was 35 years old. A mother. She was there with friends. She's a mother, a wife. I mean, if the person came to kill a whole bunch of gay and straight people, gay people and trans people, guess what? You didn't do it. You killed everybody, because that's how society works. We don't segregate, and even in clubs that are known to be LGBTQ friendly, you're still going to find all kinds of people. It's so aggravating. And she was there, going out with her girlfriends and seeing a comedian. These people were all just there. A lot of people, it sounds like, to see the show. A lot of people who worked there. It's unbelievable. So let's get to the bad guy. This is interesting to me only because, so there's a couple weird things. Number one weird thing was, this kid was only 22. He had his name was Nicholas Brink, but he changed it in 2015, which is weird because he would have been underage. He changed his name to Anderson Lee Aldrich, which that's such a weird specific name, whatever. He lived, now here's why I wonder why he had a gun. He was living with his mother at a point, and the person who had lived, there was a neighbor who had known him when he lived with his mom and in an apartment, and he was like, the guy was very racist statements. He made racial slurs. He spoke ill of people who were not straight. I mean, and the guy's dad was on TV. You may have seen it on Twitter. Number one, I look at a lot of Twitter in the middle of the night, so I don't have the sound on. And he was making very weird head movements, very weird mouth movements, and eye movements all over the place. And people commented underneath. Then I turned on the sound, and he was talking rapidly. And he was obviously altered state on something, but it appears to be meth, I guess. And he is known for having a meth habit. His dad said, "Oh yeah, I heard he was the shooter. I heard he was at that club, and then they said he was the shooter, and I was just glad he wasn't gay." Okay. And then he said something. Then he wasn't making a lot of sense, but he talked about his father-in-law, Randy Vopel. So the mother's last name is Vopel too. Randy Vopel, he's a MAGA Republican, shocker there, in California, and the dad was like, yeah, he's going to be the next president, he'd be great. I'm like, okay. So let's just put a little background together. This young man comes from a background of hate against anybody who doesn't look just like him. That's a broad brushstroke, I know, but from what the dad's comments, like, I'm just glad he wasn't, I don't care he was a shooter, I'm just glad he wasn't gay. I would say that when we used to talk after 9/11, people would always say, whenever there was anybody related to any crime who was Muslim, oh, where were they radicalized? Now, since that time, if you look across the history in America, most people who are domestic terrorists are just like white males, like just like serial killers, white males. You know, there's a lot of them. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with white males. I have one at home as a son. I'm married to one. But it is interesting. I think we can say that we have enough evidence that he was radicalized at home. He already hated and made comments to a neighbor about these things, where that's not really something you just bring out, like, oh, I hate these, effing this, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's what the neighbor made it sound like. He would just have outbursts. He also moved away from his mom. His mom had moved into so I don't understand how her dad's this big, huge Republican in California. She was living in a home that was not wayward people, but people who are having trouble. Anyways, he apparently, his son, I have to look exactly, it was in 2021, he got into her house where she was renting and said he had an explosive. He was screaming at the police, saying that he wanted them, like, just come in and try it, just effing try it. It lasted for several hours, and the sheriff's office crisis negotiation team had to come in. There were 2 counts of felony menacing and 3 counts of first-degree kidnapping, and then it was sealed. It remained sealed. Now, he wasn't underage at the time because he's 22, and this was last year, so he was 21. How did he buy guns? Now, they're saying they're not exactly sure if he bought guns before or after this event, but why did the red flag laws not get enacted? Does this have anything to do with the fact that his grandfather is a big politician in California? Did he talk to somebody in Colorado Springs? These are the things that investigators will be looking at, because, this young man had serious issues. He was troubled. He had already threatened police, threatened his mother. I mean, he needed to be in a mental institution, and instead he was allowed out. So that is what we know so far about the Club Q shooter and what went on. Interesting to know, and I don't know how this is going to play out. I kind of feel like this is some weird trolling thing that whoever got his court case sealed is now suggesting this. Oh, he wants to be called by they and them. He says he's binary. Now, I'm fine with anybody saying they're whatever they want to say, and whatever pronoun you want to be called, I will be glad. Even though I'm dyslexic and I might make mistakes, I will try to remember, and I will do so. That is not a problem. But what is a problem is this person was known to be anti-LGBTQ, to use slurs. He went into a club and shot it up and killed people. So was it self-hate, or is he now trolling everybody in the system? Oh, you can't say it's a hate crime. That sounds to me like a legal strategy that his grandfather in California would help make up. Oh, no, you can't say that he is, it was a hate crime because he's binary. Do I believe that? I am sorry. This is my opinion. Just my opinion, just speculation. No. All right, so that is our first mass shooter. That is our third case. We have, unfortunately, another one. So, on to case 4. We have another mass shooting. Oh, don't worry, folks. I poured another shot. I'm ready for it. Unfortunately. Again, why do I pair mass shootings with a shot? Because these are horrific. I can't believe it keeps happening, and I can't believe we need to find out what is going on. This next case, our fourth case, it's a little crazier, and it's a little unclear as to how this person was radicalized and what happened. Okay, to the victims of the Walmart shooting, we have 16-year-old Fernando Chavez Barron, only 16 years old. Brian Pendleton, 38. Kelly Pyle, 52. Lorenzo Gamble, 43. Randy Blevin, 70. Who kills a 70-year-old man? And Tanika Johnson, a baby practically as well, just 22. So unbelievable. This happened in Chesapeake, Virginia, and to the victims. Okay. Well, people, you may have heard about this. 2 days before Thanksgiving, the Tuesday, right at night at 10 o'clock. I mean, some people are really going to the store right then because at 10 o'clock most people are at home, so you can go to Walmart and get what you need. There were 50 people in this Chesapeake, Virginia Walmart. Now remember, Virginia just had a mass shooting at the university. So everybody is on edge there anyways. This is 2 days before Thanksgiving. Everybody's getting ready. It's Tuesday night at 10 o'clock. And people are coming in for their shift. And one of the night shift leaders, they're getting ready in the back room to talk about like how the next morning's going to go, because it's Wednesday before Thanksgiving, so it's going to be crazy. And they're going to they're getting ready to stock the shelves, what needs to be done, who's going to be working where. So they're all gathered in one place, and one of their night team managers, Andre Bing, who's 31, walks in and begins shooting. Mr. Bing shot a number of people. There have been two very different descriptions that I have heard from people. Now, granted, these people are in shock, but of two witnesses who were in the store. One said he looked like he was in a daze and he was just shooting. The other person said, no, he directly looked at people and chose. And I think the second might be more true, because there was a survivor. She had I think her name was Jessie. She had a 15-month-old baby girl at home, and she had only been working there a week. Now, some of the other people who had been shot did say that this manager was problematic to work for. He would write you up even when you didn't do anything. He didn't really have an excuse. He seemed to want to take, he wanted to use his authority, respect my authority, if you know the reference. Hashtag, if you know, you know. Some of the people he shot, were known to not get along well with. But this Jessie girl, she was hiding when the shooting started, and she said she didn't want to leave because even though she could hear like blood dripping of these people and she thought they were gone, she didn't want to leave them by themselves. And so she was hiding under this table, and he came out and said, get out here. And she stood up, and he said, go home. And she said like she was going to run, and she expected to be shot from the back, but she never was. She ran all the way out, straight to her car, cried, Unbelievable that she was saved, but still, the other 5. There's still 2 people in the hospital, I believe, one in critical condition, and there were another, let's see, I believe there are still, there were more people who were injured. He did leave a note. He left a note on his phone, and it wasn't really clear. So the note sort of said it was against, this is kind of strange. So the note that was found on his phone, it talked about God and the Holy Spirit and how he felt his associates were mocking him. He said, quote, "Associates give me evil twisted grins, mocked me, and celebrated my downfall the last day. That's why they suffer the same fate as me." That's what he wrote. And then he also said, "I wish I could have saved everyone from myself. I think he wrote, he said, my God forgive me." So I think he meant to write may. "God forgive me for what I'm going to do." So it did say there were more redacted names in the note that wasn't released. That I think were probably they said he railed against city officials and other people, but none of them were the 6 that were killed. So I always say, like, what can we learn from this? So we can't just go around thinking every annoying manager is going to do something like this. He bought the 9mm that morning. I mean, it didn't really seem, though, maybe more will come out, but it seems like I would really like to know about his social media and what he was reading and if he was radicalized or triggered by something in that manner. Or if he was 38, I believe. I don't know if he had a history of schizophrenia, but saying things like being paranoid that people are giving you evil, twisted grins when they probably weren't, obviously. I mean, it sounds like there was some mental illness going on. Maybe he shot himself, so he is deceased. Maybe he'll be autopsied. Maybe there have been people, I believe there's a famous, he was younger, I believe, the guy who was in the Texas bell tower shooting from long ago, like in the 50s. He did, I believe, have a brain tumor. So maybe we're going to find something like this, or maybe he was radicalized online somewhere. But it's weird that he brings up, like, the rambling and the God and the people, the paranoia. It's just a little nerve-wracking. Okay, that's our 4th case. Now we're up to the Idaho 4. This is our 5th case, and this is going to be a little bit long. So I'm going to stop my camera for a second, but before I do, if you like this little commentary and retelling of what's going on in the true crime world, could you give me a thumbs up? Could you like? That's what a like is, I guess. Could you subscribe? It's free. It would really help the algorithm, as every YouTuber says. And what it would really be nice to do is, tell me what you think about these cases. Comment below. Why do you think these people are doing this? Do you think they're radicalized in some way? Or do you think it's just part of our society? Why is it happening all the time? Why is Virginia having so much of it? And if you have any of those comments, put them below. All right, I'll be right. I'm back.